Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Leschper with 1836 Property Management, as always, in beautiful downtown Austin, Texas. And we are here with a longtime friend of mine who is actually a colleague, so to speak. Ken Jennings is with Mr. Rekey. He is a vendor. I've known Ken for, I think, as long as I've been in property management. If you guys have worked as investors or property managers, you know that as managers, you can't do anything without great vendors. That's just it. You're kind of dead in the water. Somebody has to do something, and you can't do it all, or at least you better not be doing it all. And so when it comes to things like locksmithing, you have to be a licensed locksmith. I mean, surprise, surprise, you can't go break into people's houses without the state and government knowing who you are, because that's not what they like. So you have to rely on great vendors who are licensed, who know what they're doing, who answer the phone when something goes wrong, because life happens. Everybody tries to be perfect. Well, you know what happens when that happens. So we have vendors like Mr. Rekey, and I think we've been Ken may be one of my longest, if not the longest vendor. I can't think of anybody else. There's a couple others that are around that range, but I think we've known each other for as long as I've been in this business. He is one of our, to put it in quotes, our dedicated, experienced, and knowledgeable Austin partner vendors. They provide services related to code compliance, rekeying, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, checks on all that equipment, and replacement, and much more. I want to welcome Ken and Mr. Rekey and his great services. And Ken, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this and who you are and where you service and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I love it. I love what you're doing here. Yes, Ken Jennings with Mr. Rekey. I am the founder. I brought this concept, a unique concept of locksmithing, to Austin 29 years ago, and 29 years have gone by. I got the gray hairs to prove it right here. 29 years. Interesting thing was, when I came here back home to my hometown in Austin 29 years ago to do this, I did not know that the state of Texas had just put into place this, added to the Texas Property Code, things relating to locks, the locks needed, and smoke alarms and things of that nature. Life safety issues were addressed by the state of Texas in 1995, and I can't believe it's been 29 years. And when this first happened, when we first came back home to Austin to do this, I thought, wow, this law just went into effect. We're going to be slammed for the next 2 years, right? I thought for the next 2 years, all these rental properties. The reality is, we have been slammed for 29 years of doing this. We have done literally millions of homes. Now, we do service a wide area here in Texas. We're obviously in Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and areas in between. We do cover this whole large central triangle of Texas, and being in that many cities and having that many techs, we have done a lot of properties. It's just, in fact, we probably have done more properties as a company than all the other companies put together. So that's us. And our niche has always been property management and real estate professionals, and property managers like Matt, and I was lucky to meet Matt and be a vendor with him. That's me.
Awesome. Well, we have a topic today that is what you need to know about the Texas Property Code. And we could get into locksmithing and all that stuff, but as it applies to our clients, investors, property managers, people thinking about getting into that arena, we really need to talk about the Texas Property Code, because I don't think some folks from California get this. So let's clarify one thing before we get started. We use the term code. There are codes that inspectors talk about nationally, right? Like there's this group and that group, and they have property codes, but those may not be legally required when it comes to applicability to your house. Those codes, your inspector will write them down and go, this isn't a code. But the city ordinance or the city code may permit those things. When we're talking about Texas property code, that is from the state of Texas. And when it says code, it means law. So we have, I can't even tell you how many clients that come in, invest from California, and they say, well, why is my bill so expensive just to rekey your property? I don't understand. And we go, well, it's a code. Okay, code means law. It doesn't mean you get to choose. It means if you don't want to be held legally responsible on a varying front, this is what you will do. And if you want to have a professional manage your property, they better be doing this, because if they're not following it all. So let's just clear that up before we get going. Code means law in the state of Texas. So this is not a abstract thing of best practice. This is what you will do unless you wish to be in trouble. So now that we've got that clear, let's talk today about a few different topics, and I'll jump into the first one. The first one of the three is top code compliance items for the Texas rental properties. The second one we're going to cover is why all rental properties in our management must be rekeyed. And the last one is best practices to avoid litigation. And litigation is not just you're going to get sued. Litigation is your tenant decides they don't want to be there anymore, and they find a loophole because you failed to do what you're supposed to do in that walk. And that costs you money. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up in court, but it means you're not going to be enforcing anything. So on the first topic, Ken, talking real fast today, it's Monday, we're getting it done. Top code compliance items for Texas on rental properties. Give us a few things that you're seeing out there when you get these new investors call. Hey, I don't need a property manager. I've Googled this. I can do this alone. I'm just going to call these vendors myself. The property's already ready. It's brand new. You don't need to do anything. What are you seeing that really does need to be done?
Well, I want to piggyback on what you were saying a little bit, because when you were talking about code, yes, there are statutes, there are ordinances, there are codes and laws. Who's keeping up on all of this? Who's making sure it's right? Yes, when you talk about code, there are building codes. There are building codes that have effects on locks, that have effects on smoke alarms, what smoke alarms have. But that's building code, which is totally different than the Texas property code that we're talking about here. What I've seen is this. Lately, the real estate market is shifting. We all know that, right? You can't, unless you have your head under a rock, you got to know this. And we're seeing more and more homes rotating into the rental market, and it seems like there's even more demand for rentals than ever before, especially here in Central Texas, right? New home subdivisions being built, and before people can actually buy them, the investors have grabbed them because the demand is here. And those homes have to be brought up to the Texas property code that you were talking about, Matt. Meaning the code that was used to build that home doesn't cover these other things. It's two different codes altogether. So right, under the Texas property code, you've got to have the one-sided deadbolts, door viewers in all the doors, pin locks, and other things that are required. And then on the smoke alarm front, yes, the building code does cover most of that, but in some cases it misses the CO detector, which is also very important. So anything that has to do with life safety, that's our area of expertise. And you're right, that first invoice, when somebody takes a property and says, I'm going to make this a rental, and if somebody hasn't had it as a rental before, you've got to start from scratch. And that means you're going to have to put in all these extra deadbolts and door viewers, and maybe have to add smoke alarms if it's an older home, add CO detectors if it's an older home, and so forth. And to rekey a home is $100, but if you're going to bring a property up to code, that first investment is going to be a big ticket. So prepare for some sticker shock. And I hate that, but it is just required. And I know, working with different property managers, I appreciate working with professionals like, hey, do what needs to be done. That makes me feel good, because then I know that I can walk away from that property knowing everything is right. I feel a little dirty sometimes when maybe a less professional person who's dabbling in real estate doesn't do things the right way. right? Or they only do it partial. And I feel like that they're just opening themselves up for liability. And the things I've seen over these last 30 years is scary. And so it's important to do things the right way.
So, of those items you're seeing, what are you mentioned? Did we cover the main ones? So, you're going to have to put viewers in, you're going to have one-sided deadbolts. You're going to have to
Yes.
verify that the smoke detectors are not only present in the correct location at the correct height, but actually do detect smoke. And lastly, here's my favorite, are not expired. No one even knows that those things expire, but they do. And the other is that carbon monoxide detectors. I'll talk on this since he and I have collaborated with this for a while. Carbon monoxide detectors were first required in the city of Austin, and the city said these have to be in compliance, but no one even knew where to put those in compliance, whether it was a certain height or what it may be. And so we at 1836 started complying with what that ordinance was as far as what we could get in compliance with, and we asked for clarification and so on and so forth. However, the surrounding communities, whether it's the city, the county, or anything else, can require their own ordinances, and they don't tell anyone when they change those ordinances. So we decided to just play to the safest common denominator, if you will, at 1836. And so we do the uniform best practice on any of the properties. Now, this could cost you, as an owner, $25 more to get a carbon monoxide detector installed, but it could also save you from a lawsuit if something happened, because if you go and place a tenant in that property and don't have a carbon monoxide detector in place, you're going to have a problem. So we want to make sure we can avoid that. One of the things I wanted to mention later in the program is actually, you'll notice that Ken is in his truck today. A lot of people, especially when you start running a business, it's really hard to go out in the field and do the business because you're consumed, right? Everybody works hard. You're doing a full-time job in the office, but going out to the field really enables you to have hands-on experience, to see what you've forgotten, to see what's changed in the environment. And Ken is actually running jobs today in Austin and San Antonio, and he's got his management team with him, and that enables them to go out and keep their hands on everything. The second topic is why all rental properties under new management must be rekeyed. And that is something we did just cover, about that being the code for the state. So the code actually dictates what you can and can't do in the state of Texas, and there is a Texas property code. Ken has developed a website called texaspropertycode.org if it's still up, and that actually links in all the all the doctrine from the Texas property code. So if you are a rental property owner, if you're a property manager, anything else, you're going to want to refer to that code, and that makes it easy to find on the .org version. But the reason that these rental properties have to be rekeyed is because it is state law. So if you are investing in a property for the first time, if you're renting your home for the first time as an owner, you're going to have to follow that property code to ensure that you are in compliance with the law and that your tenants are safe. So some of the best practices to avoid litigation is, first off, have a third party do the work that is a licensed professional vendor. You as a property manager or as an owner of a property have the legal right in Texas to do a lot of things that maybe you sure shouldn't. That's the rules in the state. And some of those are related to property code and rekey and locks and all that stuff. But the best ways to avoid the litigation are really to follow the property code, go above and beyond, so when things change, you're in a safe spot, your tenants are in a safe spot, and you can avoid the litigation of either them suing you for a failure, or should something happen to those residents, you can avoid the liability. So one of the stories that I've heard, and I'm really thankful that we did not experience this, was that someone had, I won't go into all the details, but had broken into a resident's home. And because the rental investor did not follow the property code, they became legally liable. The home was burglarized when it was occupied, and some bad things happened to the residents. But because the owner failed to do their duty, they became personally liable for what happened to those residents. Now, whether that intruder could have broken in a window or something different becomes a little bit irrelevant when they don't have the code compliance items in place. So I think what we may do today is, if Ken can't get us back up and go in the next few minutes, we may just cut out today. I will make sure you guys have all the information you need. This is one of the beauties about doing things live and on the fly. And sometimes things happen. We've been doing these for a couple of years. We've been doing a pretty good run at it so far, but this one's not going so smooth today. The beauty is that Mr. Rekeying and all the services. And if somebody has any other questions, you're welcome to reach out to both of us. I'll put our contact information in the thread. The big takeaways for today that I want you to take are avoid litigation, avoid compliance issues, and get the job done right by a professional first time. If you are going to get a little bit of a sticker shock on the first bill, it could range anywhere from $750 to $1,500, depending on what your home is missing. Even if it's a brand new home and you call us and you say, 1836, you don't need to do anything on this home. It's brand new. Just go lease it. Everything is done. Well, it is not up to rental property code. You may be up to building code for that area, but it's not up to rental property code. So you've got to keep that in mind. This is a legally required item. And the first time is the only time you have to spend that much. After that, it's going to be pretty inexpensive, $100 to $150 to get rekeyed if nothing needs to be repaired. But you need to use a valid, licensed, reputable third party to do that, so that when you go in front of the judge, if something happens, that judge can say, tell me who did this. Let me see the receipt. You can go, I did everything I was supposed to do, judge. So don't worry about me. We're in full compliance. If you have any questions for Ken or Mr. Rekey, you can find them at this chat window online, and they will be happy to connect with you, do anything they can for you. I think the big thing to remember is just to ask questions, especially if you're going to attempt to manage your rental property remotely. It's going to be difficult for you to do. So I want you to try to do your best to just ask questions and use those resources that are out there for you. And if you have any questions for us at 1836, whether it's related to property code, investing, or anything else in Austin, we're here for you. When it comes to technical expertise on using Crowdcast, it looks like today's not our day, but everything else we can certainly help you with when it comes to rental properties in Austin. We greatly appreciate you being present, Ken. I love your expertise. I know you'll be happy to share that with any of the clients that are out there if they reach out to you. We value you as one of our partners. Ken has been one of my professional mentors for as long as I've been in the business, and he's always been there for me as a colleague and a friend. And he'll maybe watch this later. And Ken, I just want to say thank you to you for being such a good guy and being such a supportive colleague with us at 1836. We really appreciate what you do. We appreciate that we can count on you. We appreciate that you are reputable and you do what you say and say what you do. So it's greatly appreciated. We will regroup with you guys next month, and we'll be back with another Crowdcast. And if we can get Ken back maybe at the end of the year, we'll dial him in and make sure he's in an office next time, not out running jobs. Until then, have a great July. It is the 1st. Hope you're taking some time off for you and your family during the summer. And if we can help you support any of your real estate needs in Austin, help collaborate with your agents, anything else related to investing, we're here to give you a hand. We'll see you again soon.